Right, we're live on X, so let me ping the link in our chat so you guys can see if you want to. Yep, and LinkedIn, we're going live now, and it will be the same thing. So I'll give it 30 seconds, and then I'll transition to our chatting, and we can start. Just want to make sure this is on. Right, okay. Okay, yep, we're live. LinkedIn, we're going live now, and it will be the same thing. So I'll give it 30 seconds, and then I'll transition to our chatting. Welcome, everyone. I think this is our rescheduled live stream from last week, and we had some audio technical difficulties, but we're back now, and the guys are here. I think it's all resolved now, which should be good. So thank you all for joining. This is obviously our Preconfirmations and the Future of Rollups live stream. And I think people might not have seen, but a couple of weeks ago we had an announcement that EigenCloud had supported Puffer and our Unify AVS with a grant. And following that announcement, it made sense to set up this live stream between our teams and dive into the partnership a little bit more and see what this means for like pre-confirmation infrastructure and the future of decentralized sequencing on Ethereum. So before we get stuck into the questions, it's probably best to get our guests introduced. So Amir, if you'd like to start, that would be great.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're very thankful for actually EigenLayer also hopping on this space with us. I'm the founder and CEO at Buffer Labs, and very excited to chat and talk about how we are scaling Ethereum.
Awesome. And Fayeti, if you want to introduce yourself and maybe a bit about EigenCloud as well. Thanks.
Hey everyone, I'm Koons, and I'm the business development lead at EigenCloud. EigenCloud is a suite of products, including EigenLayer, which is the restaking platform, EigenDA, which is the most widely used DA layer on the market today, and EigenCompute. Really excited to talk about pre-confirmations. It's something I'm super excited about in the future of, and I think that Puffer is in a very unique spot. So super excited to go into some details and talk about some of the problems Puffer is solving and why us on the EigenCloud team are doubling down on supporting builders like Puffer in bringing pre-confirmations to market.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you, guys. I think that probably leads quite nicely into our first question. I would say we're probably going to dive into this in a bit more detail. But so to start with the first question, Amir, I guess, if you could explain sort of like high level what Puffer Unify AVS is and sort of like the problem or problems it solves.
Yes. So Unify AVS, as any other sort of actively validated service, is an economic layer, economic security layer for our pre-confirmation network. The pre-confirmation network, as the name comes from it, it's to pre-confirm transactions for the users that are requesting certain transactions from, for example, sending money from A to B to be done. One important factor for today's Puffer Preconf AVS is it's focusing on L2 transactions, and it's delivering the best user experience to users because these pre-confirmations are going to actually be done with the state that the users ask for them. A high-level overview of pre-confs is a very fast and speedy guarantee for users for their transactions to be added to the blocks. Today, it is existing in formats of sequencer pre-confs or some other formats of pre-confs. We extended it to become much more general so it can serve both based rollups from the Ethereum validator layer and also existing L2s that are out there that are looking to get to speeds that are not possible with their own sequencing systems. So we are talking enabling microsecond to millisecond transactions in this range for many users, which is on par with the speeds of TradFi even. So that's very TLDR on the Puffer Preconf or Unify AVS.
Thank you. And Kunz, going off the back of that, was there, I guess, a specific feature or features that EigenCloud specifically liked about the Puffer AVS, or that led to the support of this grant?
Yeah, so I think there were a few things that we thought about in consideration of backing and supporting the Puffer team. I think the first thing was that there was a clear product market need. And so we personally felt at EigenCloud that Preconfirmations address a lot of the latency and user experience bottlenecks in rollups today. I think the second thing was that the Puffer team has a lot of credibility in the space. And so the Puffer team has shipped meaningful products in the past, such as like liquid restaking and the based rollup. And so this was a team that had a lot of credibility and goodwill built. The next thing was that we had a lot of alignment in our vision with the Puffer vision. And so in particular, the EigenLayer product enables new trust markets via restaking. And we thought that the Puffer Unify AVS was a clear example of leveraging the tech that we had built and the ecosystem that we had bootstrapped with operators. And then lastly, I think the design philosophy that the team took really stood out to us. So the Puffer team was very considerate about thinking about like how things, whether or not to use slashing, how operator incentives work, and then crypto economic accountability. And so for these reasons, we really decided to back the Puffer team. We liked that they were building an AVS that expanded the Ethereum, the L2's capabilities. There was operator demand, and there's the potential for these operators and other participants to earn additional yield. And the infrastructure being built, we view as being infrastructure grade. So that was kind of our philosophy in backing the Puffer team with Unify.
Well, that's great to hear, and we really appreciate your support, obviously. I think, Amir, when you said previously about the sequencing the L2s, I guess I saw something earlier this month where Vitalik posted and he was arguing that L2s need unique value beyond just scaling, and he was pointed to pre-confirmations as key infrastructure. And obviously, Puffer, we've been building in exactly this direction. So I guess I wanted to ask, off that basis, we've been very vocal, especially yourself, about decentralized sequencing. How does Puffer Unify tie into this, and what benefits does it bring into Ethereum?
Of course, this started from the conversations on scaling Ethereum more sustainably while maintaining the connectivity to the Ethereum L1 itself. And this rooted from consideration of designing in a based rollup space as well. Our philosophy, of course, has been always following that. If Ethereum wants to scale, we do not need the replicas of applications that are existing on Ethereum to actually deploy on a generalized L2, and it can be pretty much on an app chain. But there's always the question of incentives and trust when you start to designing a shared sequencing or even a decentralized sequencing in that landscape, because there is always this disconnect of how the incentives work between the rollup developer or the owner or the programmer of the application, or even the L2 in terms of institutions that want complying L2s. And the people who are running the infra, which in Puffer's case are going to be the gateways and the Ethereum validators. We have carefully taken into this consideration when we were designing our incentives to make sense of decentralized sequencing. Because before this, decentralized sequencing or based sequencing even was considered as format of a very disincentivized, very misaligned developer infra provider architecture. And we finally enabled it through Puffer Unify AVS. Now, I think so far, decentralizing sequencers has had a more of a negative sort of connotation because it introduces more latency and it had inefficiencies. But the value that it has in connection to base rollups, we believe, is it brings composability between L2s and L1s without these L2s or even the L1 to trust the developer or infra provider of these sequencing layers. That's where we're quite vocal about it. We've, as a subcategory of decentralization, we introduced based sequencing, which ultimately enables trust minimized and trustless communications between L2s and the L1 and L2s and the L2s. So they're it's takes advantage of this trust and coordination layer of EigenLayer to actually deliver these. And this is pretty much on within the same lines of what Rollups actually should have been as well, which is scaling transactions beyond Ethereum's capacity.
Perfect, thank you. I mean, a lot of talks around trust, obviously, and I know that ties in a lot with EigenCloud, and you guys originally launching as like the decentralized trust marketplace. Off the back of that, I guess, is there sort of a specific part of like Puffer's approach, Guns, that like, especially like Puffer AVS, that stood out to EigenCloud? I know we sort of briefly spoke about sort of parts of it, but is there a part of the approach that really stood out?
Yeah, so there were a few different parts that we really liked. The first part was around decentralized sequencing. And so we felt that the Puffer team had a very, well, one, decentralized sequencing is very important for the long-term roadmap of Ethereum and ensuring like this credible neutrality. On the EigenLayer side, we have restaked capital, so there's clear alignment between participants in the Ethereum ecosystem and the opportunities that they align themselves with. And we really like the way the Puffer team was approaching this, approaching decentralized sequencing as part of their core primitives. The second part was that there were a lot of crypto economic guarantees that were present, and that the Puffer team had put a lot of thought and consideration into, rather than relying on social trust signals. And so what this means is that the Puffer Unify team thought a lot about what slashable commitments could be used and how we could create enforceable trust. And then lastly, I really like the way that the team had thought about capital efficiency. So the team thought about how they can actually leverage restaked Ethereum from the EigenLayer network and share Ethereum's economic security, rather than having to bootstrap separate validator sets. The team itself has done a really good job just thinking about how to build this product, but also align long-term with Ethereum and solving some of the UX constraints. And so for us, that was the key. Those are the key parts of the approach that the Puffer team took. And that made us want to back them with this grant.
Brilliant. That's very insightful. Thank you. I guess talking obviously a lot about Unify AVS, I mean, I think probably the next question, I mean, I don't know how much you can disclose with this, but it'd be interesting to see sort of like, or hear about what sort of interest like the team's seeing around adoption of Puffer Unify AVS, and is there any sort of particular roll-ups that you're targeting or have already in the pipeline?
Of course, you know, we spend almost like half a year just discussing with developers, rollup owners, and all categories of potential users of this on how to design this. That's why we ended up where we are in terms of sort of this incentive match between someone who is willing to deploy a rollup and someone who is willing to provide the infrastructure to run it. So they can actually in a very collaborative manner continue to work together. As you remember also previously, there was this talks around, or this sort of a criticism against based rollups, that a rollup owner is never incentivized to actually go based. And that's what, like Kunt mentioned, we carefully designed a system that the incentive exchange between the infra provider, which is the preconf provider, and the rollup owner is very well designed enough that the rollup owner or developer, let's say a Perptex or other examples, do not have to really worry about their infrastructure down the line. They're not also incentivized to go and design an entire L2 with BFD or certain consensus on top of it. So this was our design considerations. And as part of our first batch of launch, we will be directly serving these preconfs to Puffer Unify based rollup and based app chains that are coming in on our testnet in this month of March. We're very excited to actually announce one of our first application launches. It is going to be a trading platform that is launching on top of Puffer Unify, and they're going to be taking advantage of this preconf AVS that we're specifically at first designed for Puffer Unify AVS, Puffer Unify rollup, and then extended to other rollups later as well. So very soon we are going to be actually observing and essentially a new paradigm of scaling on Ethereum, thanks to this pre-conf service, and of course, as I would later explain, thanks to the composability that the Puffer Unify-based rollup architecture brings to the table.
So keep your eyes peeled, I guess, on what's coming in the next month. No, very cool, very cool. I guess going on just about the more about the grant, maybe a slightly spicy question, I guess, because grants tend to come with expectations. From EigenCloud's perspective, is there sort of like any milestones or outcomes that you're hoping to see from this partnership, or maybe they've already been met? Who knows? But is there anything from that perspective?
Yeah, so on the EigenCloud side, we decided to issue the grant just because we felt that the grant can be used to create incentive alignment for new folks that onboard. In terms of the milestones that we were thinking about, the first thing is actually using this to help onboard the right types of professional infrastructure providers. And so as we try to onboard the next billion users or TradFi, these folks can really benefit from pre-confirmations like Puffer Unify. So creating incentives to get those sorts of parties aligned and participating. Beyond that, I would also say that we want the grant, or we'd like for the grant to be used to actually allow for creating some sort of demand flywheel. And so what this means is with the grants, they could, as there's more improvement of like volume being processed via the pre-confirmations, we could look at doing any additional follow-on grants to kind of meet this demand, but also get more folks excited in using the platform. There were no explicit conditions since this was like a alignment grant, but we did feel that the team did a really good job of developing the technical milestones. So doing a successful test net and then launching to mainnet, and then finding relevant parties that want to get involved with the Puffer Unify AVS. And so, yeah, those are some of the milestones considerations we took into place, just working with the Puffer team, and then also looking forward.
Brilliant. Yeah, I guess it's all around sort of like the integrations, right? Just trying to move forward with them at speed, I guess. And I guess from that perspective, Amir, with this grant, I guess, with what we're already building, does this sort of accelerate that, or does it help unlock something entirely new?
Absolutely. So we actually historically take grants to Puffer team as very strong signals. As you might remember, Puffer was one of the first recipients of Ethereum Foundation grants around designing like protections around solo staking and solo stakers enhance security on their operations. And now with EigenLayer as well, we're looking at them as more of a signal to developers, to the parties that are interested in using like advanced technologies that are going to be very soon battle tested in the field, and making sure that they are matured beyond just research levels. And that has been our specialty. Like, we start something from the research level, and we will deliver innovative approaches in solving existing problems within the ecosystem. And EigenLayer grant itself actually shows a stamp of approval to other devs and users who are interested in entering the use cases within this. In addition to that, like Koens mentioned, this also unlocks the future potentials of like exposure of all of the pre-conf users to further grants. We will also utilize this grant to actually incentivize our current pre-conf users. This will be used in terms of either like sequencing fee rebates or other formats that they can take advantage of to actually bootstrap their ecosystems. As you know, for example, Puffer Unified Rollup comes with account abstraction. It comes with many formats of paying for gas fees. So we will be able to make sure that we can actually help these developers pay for the gas fees of the users in the future as well. And they will take many formats in providing feature supports for our devs on this layer as well. In addition to that, like Koens mentioned, we do have a pretty important roadmap, also like providing this to institutions that are interested in entering Ethereum, which I will probably touch on at a later point, but the idea is institutions do not have to be confused anymore while they're trying to pick their own scaling solution.
Yeah,
I'd love to add to that.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I would just say the last point that I want to add was that on the EigenLayer side, our long-term objective is how can we find folks that are actually utilizing the stake and having productive uses of stake, and how can we reward these participants like operators? And so, as we're thinking about the Puffer team, the product they're bringing to market, we felt that they're solving a real need. There's clear demand consumption. We're hoping that the consumption ramps up over time as new participants enter. And how can we make sure that, like, because they're using these uses of stake, we can actually reward the participants and get them to participate as the ecosystem grows and their chunk of the pie grows.
That makes sense, and it's kind of perfect, really, because you're both talking about institutions. That was kind of where I wanted to sort of finish up, really. I mean, we've spoken about the technical side, obviously, around preconfirmations and decentralized sequencing and the infrastructure layer. But I guess the next piece is around getting broader participation behind those. So I guess the final question, and after this, obviously, we've still got a little bit of time. So after this, if you want to add any more, feel free. But I guess the both of you, maybe if we start with you, Kunz, on this, what do you see or what do you consider a realistic path for institutions to participate in restaking and utilizing Puffer AVS?
I think the biggest thing that institutions can benefit from at this moment is education. So I'd say a lot of these folks are just getting started on chain, and they might not have all the context as to like how to best optimize for security, opportunities, and creating the best user experience for their end users and LPs. The way that I see this is the first step is actually educating these folks as to what products exist on the market, and then from there, getting them set up, incentivizing them to get started with small setups, either as an operator or actually consuming Puffer Unify, and then using this to actually power a lot of these use cases that require extremely high throughput, where pre-confirmations really does take things to the next level. I think that's probably the pathway forward, and ourselves on EigenCloud really want to help onboard these institutions. And I think between us and Puffer, we can definitely make this a reality in the coming months, as we move from education to actually getting these folks participating and consuming pre-confirmations.
And I guess side question to you, Amir.
Yeah, so the thing that we're like thinking of many aspects of like onboarding the next generation of institutions. The first thing that Puffer Preconf or Puffer Unified AVS really provides is very fast transactions. We solve for that, and actually we can bring TradFi speeds for example, New York Stock Exchange or any sort of other applications that can be done and that can be exported over to the blockchain. Now, another thing that we're very much aligned on is like the roadmap that, for example, Vitalik mentioned in his article, that there can be institutions that want their own extensions of Ethereum, that they want it to be specialized, they want it to be compliant or any other formats. This is another thing that really the gateways provide. Gateways can provide compliant, even we're hinting that, like we've been hinting that, but also potentially also privacy to all of these basically institutional chains that there are developing. And we will make some announcements around our design space around privacy very soon as well. In addition to that, now that we are providing this really good infrastructure, the second point is institutions will not have to worry about running their own infrastructure or hire very massive teams of maintaining those said infrastructures. But you might ask, okay, there are existing solutions that provide Rollup as a service, and there are infra providers, like why would they still find it advantageous? A big point in institutions trusting these gateways or Ethereum validators to running nodes for them is the downside risk protection. What if the sequencing is malicious? What if it is something that they want to have some sort of an active assurance or security on the operations? That's where EigenLayer stake really plays into this. By providing this economic security, crypto economic security backing for as format of a trust for running their chains, running their future chains, this is actually a big guarantee. Now we're having about like $5 billion worth of economic security sitting on Puffer Unify AVS. This gives a lot of comfort to many institutions that are willing to deploy billions in the future on this, to make sure that they are actually protected and they have downside risk protections. This is something quite unique. Like, we're actually adding many into one package. We're adding the incentive alignment between the infrastructure operators and also the rollup owners, while doing this coordination with actually the added crypto economic trust, meaning that there is going to be money at stake, and the chances of like malicious activity by harming the rollup owners is very low. And even if it happened, there is risk-take capital to actually fill up for that gap. And these two are of the very most important parts when we're talking about institutional onboarding. We've been chatting to many institutions, and these three aspects addresses a lot of their concerns that they had. We've been actually chatting with major institutions for the past about like 14 months about the usability of this technology. So we're hoping that this year we will see also the first institution launching their own rollup by taking advantage of this pre-conf service in the architecture that we mentioned.
Awesome. Yeah, I know at the minute the market is seeing a lot of institutional interest. So it's great to hear that, you know, the technologies we're building are utilizing this. I think that's really all the questions we had. I mean, we've still got a couple of minutes. Is there anything else you guys want to add at all, or anything you want to mention? If not, I guess we could probably best to let people know where they can find you, where you know, your Twitter accounts, etc. But yeah, if there's anything else you want to add, feel free.
I just want to state that us at EigenCloud, we're really excited about what the Puffer team is building. We're really excited to accelerate Ethereum. And I think that we're in a very unique spot with the institutional interest coming on chain. So really excited for what's ahead. You can find me on Twitter at DeFi Yeti, or you can check us out at eigencloud.xyz.
And for us as well, you know, Puffer is a builder first team. Almost 80%, 85% of whatever we built at Puffer is built for the first time. It's backed by research. It's backed by years of research. And we will continue to build everything with scaling and security on top of our mind. If you want to check out our existing suite of products as a user, you can just drop into app.puffer.fi. You can take advantage of yield and staking products. You can participate in our governance as well. You can, in puffer.fi and our docs.puffer.fi, you could, as a developer, check out our rollup docs, our LRT docs, and our AVS docs. I wanted to make this point that everything that we built at Puffer are all connected, all starting from that base infra layer of Ethereum. Everyone will take advantage of each of the suites of products that are launched on Puffer, especially on the yield side, because eventually the yield on sequencing fees or on Ethereum proof of stake or on restaking the worlds will be all captured at the base level of our staking product, which is our Puff ETH or Puffer's ETH product. So stay tuned for our updates. Stay tuned for our upcoming announcements. You can follow us at our Twitter account, which you're tuning in right now, or X account, which is Puffer_finance, Puffer_finance, and also myself, Amir on Chain. I do occasionally release articles about our philosophy, about what the direction that we're going, and you can check them out today to find out beyond what we discussed today in this 30-minute talk.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you guys all for tuning in. I really want to say thank you to both Amir and Kunz for this talk. It's been fascinating to hear about basically what's coming from both teams. So it's yeah, it's been great. And apologies to everyone who tuned in last time where we had the audio issue, but turned out all right this time, which is perfect. So thanks again, and we will cut the stream there. Catch you in the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.